Okay, good evening at Frick. I forgot the lights on again. Hold on. Sorry. Okay, bad start. Let's try this again. Round two. Don't be stupid. Good evening, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Hope everyone had a fantastic Thanksgiving or holiday weekend or whatever you did. And if you're one of the amazing people that kept the world running while the rest was on holiday and you had to go to work, I hope you survived it. I remember working those shifts. They weren't fun. They paid good though. So, um, first off, Pop Smoking Heathen, thank you very much for the super chat. Sorry you can't make it. Have a wonderful week. Thank you for the good wishes. And that $5 gets you entered into the weekly spell working for well-being, health, and prosperity. And anyone else, if you do a super chat of $5 or more, with or without question, comment, it'll still get you entered into that. And if you don't want to be entered into it, but you still want to support the channel, just put in there, I don't want to be in the spell working. I'll leave you out of it. Though free spell working, I don't know why you wouldn't. My phone's being an annoyance. We actually got quite a few people in here. Immortal, good evening. Skilled, good evening. Glad to see you. GK, good to see you. Blue Star, good to see you. Wizards Den, welcome. Terror, welcome. Dragons of the West, Thundercat, Jason Eston, and Vitke, welcome everybody. All right, we're going to do something a little different today before I get into the announcements. I actually received a question over at the Gilded Community before I got on here, and it's actually a really good question. In fact, it's one of those questions people have asked before in passing. Like I remember it was asked like way, way back during the early coffee hours, maybe when Linda was still here. But this is why I love doing what I'm doing, because the answer has changed. Okay. So even as far as late last year, the question was, do I think that spirit boxes or EVP type devices that give real-time results would be any use contacting astral entities if one's arcane senses or arcane hearing was not developed well enough yet? Last year, my answer would have been a 100% solid, absolute no. Not at zero zilch. That was my answer last year. And the reason being, because for the hours and 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 hours of audio and video that people posted, I've never seen anything that scanning the white noise couldn't just be random pops and random radio station inserts. The answers to the questions were so vague. It's about as reliable as a daily news horoscope. It's and for me, from a scientific standpoint, anything that absurdly vague isn't useful. And I'll be honest with you, when I'm working with entities, they're not that vague. So in general, my answer was 100% no. Now, I'm also the guy that unless it's a Class A EVP, I don't count it. Because if you have to alter the recording or adjust it in any way, that it's no throw doubt into it. That's just the kind of paranormal investigating I do. Not to say that, there's anything wrong with that. It's just my data pool, what I do, right? Now, here's the kicker. There are certain shows I watch and certain ones that I like that touch on history and investigations. And one of the individuals that I enjoy watching is actually Discovery Unknown with Josh Gate. He is a skeptic at heart. He goes out and he's definitely more into history and archaeology, and he tries to find, the truth behind the myths, the legends, and the history. And I'm a big history buff. I just eat that up. But he used to do more of a cryptid show back in the day. And he started one with a new team, and me and the wife enjoy that one. Now, that final season they were doing it, they brought out a ghost box. And you can ask my wife, I full on rolled my eyes so hard the couch nearly flipped. I was disappointed in Josh. Here's the thing, though. They were asking very, very specific questions for very, very specific, and I do mean specific details. And they were getting those very, very, very specific details to the very specific questions in real time. Something that the vagueness is completely out, it's gone. And they were able to 100% verify all those answers. So not only was it not vague, but it was there. Now, I looked at the wife and I told her point blank, I was like, shit, now I'm going to have to reconsider my stance on spirit boxes and perhaps do some more testing of my own. Now, I say that because technically speaking, for evocation or speaking with entities at this point in time, and for those wondering, I think it was Skilled actually dropped this question to me, and thank you for the question. That may actually open up a whole new thing because we get questions that are hard for me to articulate in typing. I may bring them onto coffee hour. But I don't know that if it would be a good resource or not. And I lean to no, Skilled. I lean to no because after the thousands of hours of audio and video and all this that I've seen that is so absurdly vague, yes, I have finally found one that finally got my attention, finally got me to think, maybe I should give this a second look and start doing some research. And actually, that's one of the things I'm hoping to maybe get started next year. But just because I lean to no doesn't mean that I don't think it's not a good research area. Does that make sense? I think you would be better off to train your arcane senses directly than to rely on that. Even if they work as good as one would hope, I would still want to rely on senses over toy. The other part of that question, do I think it would work with dragons? That one I can't answer. Dragons hate those damn things. I don't know why, but even for research, they refuse to go near them. I don't know if they think they're going to break it. I don't know if it's going to be like that, but yeah, they don't like them. So every dragon I've ever talked to on that has just been a hardline no. Other entities, they don't do the hardline no. So when I do the research, it probably won't be with dragons. And stay tuned, because actually, once I get a hold of a spirit box or something, I got to find one that is decently made, that's reliable, and people give it good marks and is affordable. But I'm hoping to do some testing. But do note, when I do this, I'm very skeptic spirit box. I always have been. It took a very long time for somebody to get a very, very clean, specific, unaltered, clear to the ear response that I said that was legit. I'm just that big of a skeptic. But it is an area I think would be worth researching. But if we're researching it, we have to keep it specific and only in the Class A. If it's gobbledygook and you can't, people's guessing it's what's said, just toss that one out in my mind. Hope that helps a little. All right, we got a bunch of people jumping in here. Greg, good to see you. Vicky, welcome. I'll try and get some of these. Small Bean, good to see you. Oh, and for those who don't know, I don't know how you don't know at this point, the evocation course is live at workingdragonmystic.com. Go over there, click online courses. The evocation course is there. It is live. Happy holidays, everybody. Go summon some spirits. It's a lot of fun. And we have got nothing but wonderful remarks about the course. So thank you very much for the compliments on the course, by the way. Holiday season's coming. Well, actually, it's here. We already crossed the line, didn't we? We're already here. So you will be seeing a few holiday videos that I got in mind I'm going to try and do. Even put up the little snowy background for tonight. Really looking forward to it. I actually am half considering sleeping outside in like low 30s with just some of my camping gear, because I need to know just how low my sleep system goes. And rather than be out in the woods, out in the middle of nowhere when I test, I think, freezing cold outside where I can at least come back inside would be a better place, because my goal in my sleeping gear is to have a sleep system that will do without a fire. So I might test that this week. We'll see how that goes. See if I can find the time to do it. All right, now let's see. We got some questions. Am I forgetting anything for the announcements? We mentioned the course. If you'd like to support the channel, check out our locals community. You can find that at workingdragonmystic.com also. We have a lot of supporter-only content over there. We have not fully shut down the Patreon yet, but we cannot post anything else on Patreon because for some reason, every time we put it to members only, it still puts it public. Patreon is not being nice to us. I don't know what's wrong with the system. I don't know. It's weird, but they've been a pain in my tushy. So if you are on the Patreon, consider going over to locals because they're not letting us post the content to members only over there. And that's not fair to the supporters who are supporting and looking for that supporter only content. So check it out over locals. I have been asked, how about the YouTube? YouTube so far still letting us do those things. Locals gives us a few more bells and whistles, allows us to do a few more things. So there is certain content over at locals that we still can't technically, for sure, safely put on YouTube. So there's that. But you could still support us on YouTube. It seems to work mostly fine for most things. There might just be a little bit less. I just want to be honest with it when you make your guys' choices if you choose to support us. So, and there's always the super chats if you just want to give us a tip or buy us a cup of coffee or something. Okay, I think I got that done. Jason Eston. So I've been told that I'm an atheist because I don't believe there is anything in a higher power than myself and the dragons. Why would people say that? I don't know. I mean, clearly you believe in something beyond us, which pretty much isn't atheist at that point. I mean, the belief in dragons kind of kills atheist. As far as higher power, I mean, I don't even view the gods as higher powers myself. I believe in entities. I believe they're out there. I believe we can work with them. But many of you all know I treat them as an equal. So does that make me an atheist? I would find it laughable if it did. In fact, I know a lot of atheists I work with, and we discuss philosophy quite a bit, and I think they would probably fall in their chair laughing if you told them, hey, that Drake guy, he's an atheist. But then I've also noticed over the last 10 years or so, the term atheist has undergone a change that's being used in different ways that it wasn't originally used, especially in my childhood. And we're seeing this with a lot of words where people are choosing to redefine them to fit their personal view, as opposed to, the word having an actual meaning, which if you've all seen me bitch and moan about the words evocation and invocation, it can piss me off. But truth be told, there's far worse words that they're redefining for agenda driven. So all I can say, mate, is you be you, because at the end of the day, whether you're a man of faith, whether you're an atheist, whether you're a spiritualist, all these are just little flipping titles. At the end of the day, you're you, I'm me, and what other people want to think we are doesn't change who we are. And I would tell you, just live your best life you can do, Seriously. I've been called a lot of things. I don't think I've ever been called an atheist, though. That's one thing I've not been called yet. But then I've always been very open with what I do and my beliefs of what's out there and those kinds of things. Yeah, so that's actually one I've not been called yet. Give it time. Somebody will get around to me, I'm sure. Give it time. They'll get around to me. All right. Let's see. Do you watch Sam and Colby? I'm curious what you think about their investigations. I watch it as entertainment and take it with a grain of salt personally. Just curious of your thoughts. I haven't watched a show called Sam and Colby. I'm unfamiliar with and I'm really bad with names. So if the show has a different name and those are the hosts, I've either watched very few episodes of it and don't remember them, or I've not seen it, to be honest with you. Or if it's on YouTube, I probably haven't seen it. There's a lot of paranormal shows that I really used to watch a lot, Ghost Hunters being one. Of that whole team, I think the only one's names I can remember is Jay and Grant. It's that bad. Names are just not something that if I don't interact with a person on a regular basis, that don't stick in my brain as much unless I see a face. I'm very visual oriented on that. Um, so I don't know actually. Sam and Colby. No, you'll have to give me the show on that one or something, Vitki, because I'm not too clear on that one. Thundercat, what's a spirit box? Whoa, well, we jumped. Essentially, a spirit box is something that scans white noise radio stations and the like, just gets that kind of white noise crackling. And in theory, spirits can grab that white noise and shape it into an audible response to a question. But it's really just jumping through those radio stations. And honestly, anyone, I don't even know if cars still do this, but like older cars used to have this button you hit sync and it done the same thing. It just jumped through all the radio stations. And if you hit that gap where there's not a station clear enough to lock in, it just jumps through. You would hear static, 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 word or through your sentence, static, 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 word or through your sentence until it got to a good, strong station. It stopped there. You don't really see that anymore, I don't think. I know I've not owned a car that had that in a long time. But the theory is that the spirits can utilize that jumping through those frequencies and stations to pluck out the words they need, which is why I've never liked it, because you don't know if there's a spirit there. You don't know if it's just picking up a random happenstance of words. And you got so many people who try to decode what's being said. And it's, like I said, after all these years, I've only seen one instance that actually got my attention. So, but now there's a lot of people who absolutely love them, and they're just 100% spirit box supporters. I think there's even apps, and I would even say that apps are probably even less reliable, in my personal opinion, because apps can be programmed so easily. But like I got a few friends that's been testing different paranormal apps, and they've been getting absolute shit results compared to if you actually bought the equipment. And the actual equipment in the app doesn't ever seem to line up well. I can't tell you what the name of the apps were, unfortunately, but I've never used the apps myself. But that's what a spirit box is. I mean, it's an interesting concept. And I've always said I wanted to see more on it, and I was always open for, I always tell you I'm open. I'm open to ideas. I'm open to changing my mind. I'm open to being wrong. And that particular clip got my attention. So yeah. And now I'm going to have to go further down that rabbit hole. So, Greg, I've heard the spirits of the lands, like lake spirits, etc. So, are there dragons of the land that I could connect with and befriend? Dragons are not entities of this realm, period. So, the closest thing to a land style dragon would be Earth, the Earth element. So, technically, no. Dragons and land spirits do not work the same. But there are indeed land spirits. In fact, we talk about them in the evocation course. Drake, I would absolutely eat up an investigation show by you. That would be amazing. Thank you. I've looked at possibly getting a crew back together and everything. I've had zero luck with it. Everybody's so busy. The economy's just shit. We're all the people I know and trust are just scattered at this point. I think the closest person to me that I know is either a 4-hour flight or a 12-hour drive. So that does make it difficult. It is something I would love and I am passionate about. I just got to figure out how I would do it. And it is something I'm constantly kicking around. And I did try to get a hold of people to see if I could talk about old cases and whatnot. And I'm having issues with that too. So we will see. We will see. Like I said, I love the paranormal field. I love the research. And I give a lot of research groups a hard time because they don't really follow the evidence. They just want to believe every little sound they hear. But at the same time, currently speaking, I can't get out there and do it the way I would want people to do it to try and get that more rock solid, undoubtable info. And I don't know. I'm a busy old mage. I don't know if I'll be able to do it, but it is something I want to do. I'll be honest. Um, how do I know they've ate the equipment? Yeah, I have. One of the friends I have that is still in a paranormal group. She loves spirit boxes, and she wanted to try and test one of her new ones several times. And we tried to get the dragons to participate, and they full out refused. And it happened enough times that I went to each of the rulers, and the rulers are just like, no, no, we're not playing with that thing. Um, I'll be honest, I didn't sit down and like pick their brain and ask for why they gave such a hard no. Um, because have you ever got that no? Usually you get it from your mom or your wife. It's just such a hard no. It's like there's no questions asked. It's just you're done. It's kind of that kind of a no. So I didn't bother. Though now that I know what I do know with that new clip, I might go ask that a little more and see if I can get a better answer than they just said no. Because I like explanations too. Agree. Happy holidays to you. Happy holidays to you too, Grizz. Happy holidays, mate. Uh, Small. I got some big tests at the end of the week, but for this evening, I'm hunkered down playing some Minecraft. There you go. I took a graveyard. Honestly, since we don't do to take duty and stuff, because that way people with families can spend it with them. Oh my god. I suck with names, people. My southern twang just messes me up, but I'm going to try this. It's Sheila. Is that Sheila? I think that's Sheila. Happy Yule to you too, even early. Mugs up to you on that. I'll take a happy wish. Got no mod about that. Actually messing around, making correlate. Oh, that's kind of cool. Let's see. Oh crap, we jumped. Okay, that's okay. All right, we'll just pick up here. Let's see. Jason. I've always told myself that arcane power can help a lot of you can use it a lot if you can use it properly. And the dragons do not like man-made equipment. They actually can help you open more senses than you think. I don't know. I'm fully aware the dragons can do it. They're not big on man-made equipment at all. I'm aware of that. There's a few things I've asked them about, and they've been willing to what would you say, indulge my curiosity and experiments. But then there's other ones like that one where they're just a hard no. And honestly, I can't think of a single entity that's helped me develop more than the dragons. Honestly, in my path, I seriously cannot. The reason my arcane senses and my abilities are where they are, I really have to give 80 to 90% of all that credit to the dragons. Um, because other than two very specific path workings where I did make some growth and notable growth, um, everything else was strictly in that Dragon Magic horizon. Absolutely. Um, let's see here. Let's see here. Is it do agree? What are the five inner rings as mentioned in some of DJ Conway's books? Have you ever worked with them? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, actually, if it wasn't for DJ Conway, I wouldn't have got into Dragon Magic. In fact, if I recommend one of her books, you will all heard me. It's Mystical Dragon Magic. If you buy any of her books, that's really the only one you need to buy. And it's actually the one that deals with these five inner rings. Now, it sounds a little cooler than it is, but all the five inner rings is each level that you're working through, learning very specific things through her path working of it until you get to the inner rings of that. That is all they are. And I worked through those to the letter. You all heard me say I always do path workings to the letter. And I worked all the way through those. And it was after that that I was working more with the dragons and everything, because at no point in there do you deal with the higher rulers. Like in all her books, you might get less than a page on the highest rulers if you crammed it all onto one page. It's really messed up. Um, so it was interesting because as I dove deeper and deeper, the dragons were pointing out how much of that original working just wasn't needed to start with. And they insisted I do a whole new deep dive path working. But to do that path working, which was interesting, they said you're going to need a whole set of skills that you didn't learn while working through that. And I'm like, okay, what are those skills? And they literally sent me back to basics. They had me working on my meditation as that foundation. Then they had me working on the arcane pillars they talk about, evocation. They had me working on divinations, journey work, all these things. They had me working on those before they would even start the path working. And then we started the path working, which, oh my God, was freaking intense and was nothing like what Conway's works were. You all would recognize this path working that they put me through today as Dragon Magick 101 and 102, and soon to be 103. Those courses are the path working they literally put me through for years. And like I kept expecting more and more things from Conway's works to pop up during that path working. I really did. I was always waiting for it, and it just wasn't there. And when I got to the section where we started to dive into the higher rulers, something Conway never talked about, and I hadn't heard squat about the inner rings. I hadn't heard squat about all these tools. The dragon script was never talked about. Like all these things that are in those books that they just completely seem to have tossed out, baffled me, and I had questions, which they were happy to answer those questions, which they actually helped to put me in contact with Conway, which further let me ask questions and get it straight from the author's mouth, which was cool, which I've shared some of those discussions as I can on here. But then when I got to learning and getting to know those higher rulers, like that was an entire game changer in Magick for me. And yeah, all the way through, like even to this day, they still don't talk about those inner rings. Interesting fact though, like the ribbons that she has you kind of collect through that path working. I got a lot of students that find it funny because those ribbons end up pointless. They're like, well, those are pointless to you now, aren't they? And I was like, well, kind of. However, I actually I took those ribbons and made them into like a framed plaque where I got all 5 of my ribbons, because I'm very proud of that. I did that. I went through all that work. I worked my way all the way up to the mystic level and into those inner hidden rings, as she calls them. And just because what I'm learning now completely deviates from where I started, I'm not getting rid of it. That's a part of who I am. And honestly, a lot of people give Conway crap. They really do. But truth be told, if it wasn't for Conway and her laying the foundation, true, she had to alter a lot of it because publishers wouldn't publish. They just would not. So she had to do what she had to do to get it published, which is why so much of it doesn't hold up long term. But had she not laid that foundation, there's a really good chance none of us would be here now, including me, because that was my first exposure to it. And that's always been an interesting thing. So, I'll always tip my hat to Miss Conway on that one. And why am I making noise? Oh, I forgot to turn my phone off. I thought I turned it off. All right. I hope that answers your question a little bit. I'm trying to understand what demon, fallen angels, etc. are. When I became pagan, I'm under the impression that infernals are gods of cultures in the Middle East, but what are demons? I'm so confused. They're all the same thing, technically speaking, for the most part. So here's the thing. Most of your traditional angels and demons are the exact same style of beings. They really are. They don't. There's not a war in heaven. There's not demons fighting angels. That just isn't the way that happens. That's an allegory. But a lot of the demons are also deities, not from the East, but just all over the world of other religions that, like, it was common practice, even before Christianity, if a tribe or a culture conquered another tribe, you demonized their deities. That was common practice. So, because of this, you have this wellspring of entities that are being demonized, aka being made into demons, and looked at and viewed negatively, depending on where it comes from. And as people began to record this, more and more of it started piling up. The list got longer and longer and longer. Till eventually you get to the point where, like the Renaissance and the church and a lot of the religious peoples, including the pagans, are the ones who are writing. They're doing all the writings, the manuscripts. And some of them are even encoding it so that the religious leaders at the time don't think anything of it, making that list almost seem extremely one-sided, and it's just a super long list of practically anything. So by and large, there's not a whole lot of difference. The major difference you're going to find with angels and infernal entities is angels deal generally deal in a very strict, almost ordered fashion of working. And they, like, if you're looking at a manifestation line, they take a nice little smooth trickle, this nice little smooth gradient. And most people find that far more pleasant to work with. Whereas what the entities that people would refer to as infernals today, they're still essentially the same entities, very similar to angels. They're more chaotic in nature. They're going to want to try and get that job done quicker. They're willing to do it almost by any means necessary. And because of that, their manifestation line kind of does that. The problem with that is, in order to get that, you basically have to light a fire under someone's butt. And it's a very chaotic transition of manifestation. That's why you hear so many stories like myself. If you go and watch the roundtable where EA joined us, him and I had very similar experiences with Azazel. Azazel is listed as an angel and a demon. He technically, outside Christianity, never fails. He'll tell you he didn't fall. Same thing with Lucifer. But at the same time, he still has that very chaotic, very get it done method. And he will help you achieve what you're going to achieve, but it might not be pleasant. It might be hard work, and you got to be ready for it. That's why a lot of people do find angels easier to work with. I'm an impatient person usually. So most angels I get impatient with, not all, because again, this is general. I have found angels that definitely fall on the infernal side. They are just as chaotic, just as rambunctious as the so-called infernals. We'll have to use quotation. And then I found these so-called demons or infernals on the angelic side that are just as mellow and precise in order as the so-called infernals. So it's a very general term based around traditions. And that's one of the problems with trying to understand these terms. Sam and Colby are dudes on YouTube around haunted locations. They're pretty popular. I might have to look them up, Vitki. I might have to look them up if I get the time. Well, we jumped a gun. All right, we'll start here. Wow, we're busy tonight. Apparently the turkey didn't put you all to sleep, which is good. That's good. I love ghost hunting. I have the Ghost Vox, and Ghost on my phone. They work really well. The Ghost TV is all about spot they have investigated. Might have to check that out. See, what are the Akashic records, and do you have any experience with them? I keep hearing the term, but I don't know what to think about them. Yeah, I've worked Dragons deal with the Akashic records somewhat. And yeah, I have experience with them. There is some, like, I'll admit, even as much time as I've spent there in them, There's also this there's a vagueness, like even the people, the keepers of those records are very vague about certain things, and there is reasons for it. So generally speaking, most people will only ever be able to access their record. It is extremely difficult to gain access to any portion of another person's record. Um, but the general ideal is the Akashic records are a record of wisdom, knowledge, and experience of individual souls. And when I say souls, I don't mean the little fragments that incarnate. I mean the actual entirety of the oversoul that the little fragments that incarnate come from. So this can be helpful because this can allow you to look back through your records and see different things that's happened to maybe make sense of things. You can't change it, but you might be able to learn from it. Some people say the Akashic Records knows the forward future. In my experience, and many magicians after me have also come to the conclusion that's actually not true, because if they knew the future, free will ceases to exist. And free will is something that is toted across the multiverse as the most important thing. So the reason people aren't allowed to look forward is because the probabilities are there, but you can do that with scrying. You don't need the Akashic records for the probabilities. But along that way, the choices you make, what you do, that's actually what ends up writing the official record. And that's pretty much it. It's just that ability to look back at your records. And in some cases, you can identify behavior patterns and consider maybe altering it here or there. I actually know an individual who was suffering from an addictive personality, but they didn't realize it because the things they were addicted to were so minor, no one ever talked about it. No one ever thought about it. But those addictions were actually causing some issues with them. And like when they found it, they came to me and they was telling me about it. And I was like, you addictive? I've never thought of you as an addictive person. And they started talking about the different things that they realized. And I was like, hadn't considered it. And they decided they was going to do an experiment. They were going to try to eliminate those things, those very specific things that they've seen, and try to make sure that they don't pick up any other ones. And they was going to do this for a whole year and see what changed. Because in their mind, these things were actually some of the things that was causing their health issues, their mental fog, their lack of motivation, and all this was actually affecting their job. So I was like, you know what? Avoiding those things and trying that out, that's not going to hurt nothing. Give it a try. Let's see what happens. And hands down, they, inside, I think it was like 3 to 6 months, they were almost a different person. The weight that dropped off, the mental clarity, their energy, I mean, it just, everything improved. So I have to say, the pattern they identified and altered drastically helped them. But that's an altering it from that point forward, not a going back and changing it. You can't change what's in there. Hope that makes some sense. Let's see. Let's say dragons. So you can tell me there are no dragon spirits? Question mark. Even though on the will of the dragon, I don't know what will of the dragon you're talking about. There is every element. So in that case, they are elemental dragons. Okay, dragons exist within the 9 elements. They are not entities that are in any way linked to the material plane. Land spirits are linked to the material plane. Just because we have the element that is called earth doesn't mean it's strictly linked to the material plane. Earth energy is far outside the material plane. You find it in other planes. It's not just the rock and soil that you see here. It's far larger. That's why they are not land spirits. They don't reside in here the way land spirits do. Same thing with fire, water, and all those. And you will find all 9 of those elements of different dragons, and none of which reside here the way land spirits do. They are drastically different entities. They would be closer to elemental beings, though the dragons themselves don't view themselves as elementals. And elementals don't view the dragons as elementals. So yeah, I mean, okay. Not sure where you're coming from, Jason, but the 9 elements within that the dragons work in are earth, air, fire, water. Then you have darkness, you have light, you have spirit, you have the maelstrom, and you have chaos at the top. I agree. Are there any other cult content creators that you like or would suggest? And if so, could you list them? Man, that's a hard one because I'll be honest with you. Like every occult content creator I like or liked has left YouTube. They seriously have. And like I have spent a lot of time going through other occult channels to try and find interesting things to watch. And it has been a pain in the rear. And I can't even say I blame them because I'll admit the occult niche is not a profitable niche. If you're actually trying to make YouTube a living, it is not. It is not profitable at all. And with a lot of the policy changes, there's some of these channels that are being taken down because of the policy changes. And some of them are just leaving YouTube because before they get strikes against their account or whatever, they just leave ahead of time. And I mean, all the channels I used to love are just gone. And it's been so long since I found one that I honestly find myself going to watching their content over and over. I really can't. It's kind of odd. I'm trying to think about it because there was one I was watching. I can't even remember the name of it. It was a Norse practitioner primarily, talked a lot about Norse, but I don't think he's done a video in like 8 months or a year. And then some of the ones that I used to watch, their channel just, they went into a beeline into areas that just don't interest me, which, what's her name? I'm not dogging her channel at all because I did like it. Witch of Wonderlust, I think was the name of the channel. She's always doing a lot of different things and whatnot, and she's definitely more in the Wicca pagan purview. And when her channel originally started, I was loving the stuff she was doing. I really was. And it's just there for a while. Her videos just either slowed down drastically or she stopped posting for a while. But then she started posting again. Amazing creator. But I think she's the only one I can think of, honestly. Yeah. If I find them, I'll have to check them out. It's just, I don't know, man. It's like the occult community here on YouTube is just shrinking. And it's kind of sad. It really is. I mean, I've had one person say, hey, that's more people for you. The less people talking about it, the more people. It's like, yeah, but I like to watch this stuff too. And I hate to hear myself talk. So, but I'll keep an eye on grief. I will, because I'll be honest, these days, like there's so few of them. I find myself on self-reliance channels, survival channels, cooking channels. I'll be honest, I catch there's a few political channels. I'm not going to get into politics, so don't worry about that. That I'll watch because it makes it easy for me to work on a project and listen to what's happening and stay caught up on events. But I've not been able to find a good occult channel in a while, which breaks my heart. If you guys have a recommendation, send it to me. I'll check them out. I will admit, if it's overly edgy, I usually have a hard time watching it. I really do. I really have a hard time with that. And if they get political, I have a hard time watching it. um, so that could be part of it also. Because I have seen a few of them that's, oh, the evils of the world, and oh, God, and they get all edgy and paint up like Marilyn Manson. It's just, I can't watch it. It feels like they're pushing an agenda more than trying to teach anything. I don't like that. Um, what are my thoughts on reincarnation? Is reincarnation just incarnation of the soul fragments? Does that mean there is another piece of my soul on earth at the same time? Okay, so generally speaking, my understanding and working with other mages and the dragons on reincarnation. So you got the large oversoul thing. It's far too big to put in a meat suit, period. Okay. Now, small fragments of that are what incarnate. Okay. So every lifetime you have is one small piece of that. To answer your question about the two shards, it's my understanding only one shard can be on Earth at any one time. And once that shard's life is over, then the next one will incarnate. Each one having its own unique, mostly unrelated experiences. And all that knowledge, all that experience, all that development helps to develop the oversoul. Enough experience and mastery of the self, the soul, gets to the point where one of these shards, hopefully, theoretically, will hit ascent or enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, at which point that soul would be free of that process. All that knowledge and information would finally come to collide. The dominant personality, which is usually the one that actually achieves the ascent, is the general personality that takes dominance at that point. This is why, technically speaking, reincarnation is a thing, but ghosts are also a thing. Because if reincarnation was a thing, but there was no individual fragments of that soul, you couldn't have reincarnation and ghosts. You couldn't. You could have reincarnation and the energetic impressions. That's not necessarily a soul, a ghost, or a spirit. It's just like an energetic loop. But you wouldn't have intellectual or intelligent hauntings because there's no ghost. And that's one of the things I'll admit, hands down, with religion and everything that bothered me. And I dove down that well pretty early, because how do you supposedly have ghosts and believe in ghosts and supposedly believe in reincarnation at the same time? And if you believe in reincarnation, how do you believe in ancestors? Because you wouldn't have ancestors. There'd be no ancestors to call upon because they're all already walking around this rock somewhere else. That just makes no sense. Unless you got like 5 or 10 in the queue waiting to hop down. But then, like, the older you get, the fewer ancestors you got, which just, my brain had trouble with it. And it's stuff like that almost did make me an atheist. But that's my understanding of it. That is my research, and other magicians I've talked to have collaborated that. Does that mean that's an absolute 100% how it works? No, that's just what my findings are. A lot of people agree with it. I would say meditate on it for yourself and see what you think. Let's see. Let's see, Jason. Oh, wow, I just learned. Thank you. I did not know that. Oh, no problem, Jason. Like I said, I don't see. I got a lot of people who come here and they've got like a whole wealth of background information on dragon magic, and then I got people who, like, they're just finding it. They're or they're coming straight out of draconic Wicca, which it's literally just turn the elements into dragons in draconic Wicca most of the time. And I never know when they're asking the question where they're at. So that's why I said I don't know exactly where you're coming from, because when we talk about the will, outside of one book that tried to claim that dragons were fairies and angels, I've not really heard of a will. And they're not fairies and angels. I'm still trying to figure that one out. But yeah, so I'll answer things as best I can. And if I ever come off harsh or seem insulting, I'm not trying to. I'm an asshole at heart. I try to be polite, and I try to answer questions as best I can. So if I accidentally come off that way, just don't take any offense by it. But I'm glad I was able to help you there, Jason. See, what is the maelstrom? Is it even supposed to be written like that? I didn't know how to write that. That looks. I'll be honest, spelling is not my best subject. Anyone who's seen me in Gilded knows that, but that looks right to me as far as the spelling of maelstrom. Um, how would you describe maelstrom? Anything above those first four was viewed as the higher elements. You'll notice there's not a lot of content on those higher elements. That's the dragon's specific wishes until the tools are available. I am hoping that they'll let me talk a bit more about them in other places coming up soon. That's in discussions. 103 is all on those higher elements, just so we're clear on that. But Maelstrom is it. Those higher elements are hard to define. They're not as easy to define as some of the others, and the last two are definitely the hardest by far. So let's see. Think of Maelstrom, sort of like raw primal, and I do mean like primal creation, arcane energy. And its main focus is manifestation and change. Just raw, arcane, pure, primal change. And because of this, it is a very, very potent element, but it's also one of the most dangerous because humans have this desire to resist change. And the problem with this is the more you resist it, the more damage it does to you. And because of this, I have seen a lot of magicians literally get torn apart. Their lives go from living high on the hog to basic, well, not, I mean, literally, I know four of them that went to being homeless. And I personally know of two that they ended their subscription to Earth. Let's put it that way. And that's one of the reasons the rulers are like so against talking much about these elements, because there's no tools. There's no place right now where the tools to work with them in a, I'm not going to say there's ever a safe way to work with these elements, but in a manner that knows you know what you're doing. You know what I mean? It's kind of like if you're working as a logger and on tall trees and everything, it's a dangerous job, technically speaking. Hell, look at crab fishing, dangerous job. Is it ever safe? No, it's never technically safe. And if you do something stupid, you're dead in a heartbeat. These elements can work like that, if not worse. And I have to temper myself because I'm a big believer in, if I tell you not to touch this until you're ready and you touch it, that's your fault. But apparently, so many people were touching things that the dragons actually had me pull certain videos down. And they've been so instrumental in what I do, helping me to help other people, that I respected that request. Hopefully, that'll change soon. Hopefully. But that's essentially what the maelstrom would be in a nutshell. And that is a very, 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 very watered down version. But it is a very harsh one. Was it Ocean? That's it. That's the guy, Terror. Ocean. Yeah, I can't say that. That's the one. That's the one. I ain't seen him post in a while. Ocean, if you're out there and you're watching this, unlikely. But if you are, miss you, man. You had some great videos. Let's see. The occultist is my favorite creator apart from you, Drake, of course. Oh, that's sweet. Oh, people, you want to hear something crazy? So I'm actually going to try and start drinking nothing but water at 3 p.m. every day. I'm going to try it. We'll see. Which in the workings? I've not heard of that one, Skilled. I'll check that one out. Actually, if you guys are in the Gilded community, DM me these channels so I can check them out, please. I'd love it because it gets lost in the feed often on here. I've never heard of that one either. The Josh Allen, never heard of that one. Sheila, do I have a book list posted? Actually, I do. Under any of my videos, if you go into the description, the books that I would actually recommend to beginners or my students are actually listed there with Amazon links to them. Those are affiliate links. So even whether you get the Kindle version, the hardback version, I don't think most of them probably paperback, but the channel gets a small kickback on that because it is an affiliate link. But every time I find a really good book that I love, I try to add it to that list down there so it's easy for you all to find. You should even find Dr. Jackson Crawford's Poetic Edis down there. I'm pretty sure it better be down there. I better have added it. If I didn't, bad Drake, because I love his translation. Let's see. That would make sense, but how if there's a ghost of my soul fragment I incarnate, could a ghost of me be on earth at the same time? So the ghost of that soul fragment has lived its life. It's passed on. It's doing whatever it's doing. Not all ghosts who we encounter here are stuck here. Some of them just happen to wander in and out. Once that soul fragment ends its life, the next one will begin to incarnate down. That's how the ghost and the living you can be in the same spot, if that makes sense. I'm sorry I'm out here with the big question. Hey, no problem. Last week we got super philosophical and all that. It was great. And honestly, some of these deeper, complex questions, they need to be asked. I mean, I've told you all before, I have a basic understanding of my research and what I have found and the questions I've answered for me. And I always go back and re-examine those things too. So like, I've had people say, he's answered that question in videos or on live streams before. Who cares? Maybe they weren't here, or, maybe my opinion's changed, like the spirit box. My opinion has changed. We as magicians have to be willing to be wrong. We as magicians have to be willing to view everything from a different perspective other than our own. If you're just in this little solid echo chamber and all you ever do is hear your own ideals, your own theories, and it's there's no growth. You just stay here, you don't grow. It sucks. It's boring too. Let's be honest. I love a lot of shows. I do. I love the Lord of the Rings, people. I enjoy it. But I could not sit down and watch Lord of the Rings only for the rest of my life. I need something new. I need something different. I need some spice. I'm a Southerner. So I love when I get an opportunity to talk to people who disagree with me. And I love it even more when we can have civil discourse. I don't know what's wrong with the world, but you're not allowed to have a civil discourse with someone who thinks differently anymore. That seems to be so taboo, and it pisses me the fuck off. That's why the people I do get to spend time with, hang out with, and talk with, and discuss things, I love when I get those opportunities. Because to me, like last week, that was a good philosophical chitty chat live stream we had last week. I freaking loved it. We got into some deep topics, but I loved it because in a lot of ways, there's no way to truly know. Think back to my video on, is it real or is it self-hypnosis or placebo? You all know I started on it was more evoking parts of yourself. It's placebo, but it's helping you to self-hypnotize and make yourself better. And I came over to a point where these entities are very, very much real. They're external. But at the end of that video, I concluded with, at the end of the day, if you're on your path, if you're doing what you're doing, and whatever it is you're doing is helping you to be a better you every day, why does it matter? Because at the end of the day, I would love to know beyond a shadow of a doubt. Let's be honest. That's the reason I approach magic, paranormal research, and all these things the way I do. That's the reason I want only Class A EVPs and stuff like that. But if I don't get it, is that going to stop me from doing what I'm doing? Technically, no, because I'm getting the results I want in my life. I'm manifesting the things I want, regardless of if it's self-hypnosis or if it's real. My opinion on things have shifted over the years drastically, and that's fine. But I would encourage all of us to step outside of our comfort zone and experience different ideals. There's plenty of people out there who approach dragon magic very, 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 very differently than I do. Are they wrong? I don't know. I can tell you what the dragons have told me. I can tell you those things. Um, have I seen people get hurt going off the rails and doing the things that I warned them? Yes, that's why I warn them. I don't like to see people get hurt. Never have, never will. But I will be the first one to say I don't think I'm the only one that knows the right path. That would just be arrogant, hubris, and stupid. Um, in fact, on this channel, I've told you all, I hope whatever I share, whatever you learn from me on this channel, I don't want you to become the next Drake. I want you to go beyond me. I want you to do more for this world than I ever did in my lifetime. That's what I hope to leave behind. So, yeah. Awesome as always, Drake. Blessing for the week. Try LaCroix coconut for water. I love it. I'll probably try LaCroix, but like I'm doing like a super clean carnivore. Like I actually cheated because Thanksgiving. I didn't super cheat. I just I had apple pie, which is not on my carnivore at all. It did not agree with me. Not going to lie about that. But so I try to stay away from artificial sweeteners and flavored waters. Though I will admit that LaCroix coconut stuff, that is good stuff. You aren't wrong about that. But I'll probably just get the LaCroix carbonated because I do like something with a little bubble in it occasionally. But I also like try to drink 4 of these. My goal's 4 of these a day. So roughly a gallon of water. And luckily our water here don't taste bad to me. So chugs. And I know this is going to sound bad, but I'm a heavy drinker. And I don't mean alcohol. It's just like I've always got a beverage in my hand. So, like, I could down this in one gulp if I was motivated to. So yeah, I think it'll be good. I've heard all the miraculous health benefits of drinking water. I don't know if I buy into them all. The data is conflicting, but at the same time, if nothing else, maybe I'll save a little money drinking coffee, a little less, and maybe I'll get some of those health benefits. Yeah. All right. Also, I should like to say I am planning to do a New Year's challenge again. So keep your ears open for that. We're going to set it up. We're not sure how we're setting it up at this time. We don't know if we're going to do the full year. We don't know if we're doing 6 months. We don't know where we're going to put it. We don't know. We're still trying to work out some bugs. I think last year was amazing. So many people got so many benefits out of the 6-month challenge that we did at the first of the year. Whether it be for their school, their metaphysical practice, so many people just broke lifetime goals for themselves. It was amazing. I asked if we're going to do it again. Yes. Too many people have seen too many changes in their lives to stop doing it. And honestly, I've enjoyed it. And last year I didn't get to take full advantage of it because of that whole stupid move. And this year I'm really, 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 really looking forward to being able to just dive in, knuckle it down with all of you all on it. So yes, we will be doing that. All right. And we have run over. Tara threw some clocks at me. Is Jade not around? Oh my God, Jade's not here. I don't know what to do with them. Jade, thanks for the clocks, Tara. Somebody's got to keep me in line. So that means I could technically reach out to my other. Oh yeah, you can evoke your old selves. Like if you could actually evoke your old self. Yes, it's possible. Yes, Drake, you are the only occultist I honestly trust. Oh, that's sweet, and I'm honored to have earned that. I really am. GK, thank you very much for the super chat, mate. The whole personal gnosis really confuses me. Personal gnosis is a term I love and hate it, mate. Because personal gnosis means that you have found in your experiments or in your experience this to be true. Great, awesome. The problem is people lock it in either as I found this to once be true, so it must always be true. Or they use it, and this is the worst, they will actually use it to make an excuse for why they're doing what they're doing, regardless of whether it improves them or makes them a worse person. They just use it as an excuse. It's like, well, it's my personal gnosis, so you can't tell me nothing. So it's, one of those things. If you haven't seen it, check out my video. I have a video on Let Your Gnosis Be Wrong. It actually talks about that very topic, GK. All right, let's see. Yeah, are medias like The Hobbit, where dragons are depicted as evil, offensive to the dragons? No, they're not. Dragons love a good story. Dragons are very respectful of storytellers who tell good stories. So they understand that the dragon is an image for a chaotic, destructive force. They understand what the image of the dragon is meant as. So they're not offended by that, because there is still that concept of overcoming your dragons, that terminology, your challenges, those strifes, those difficulties. I was talking to an individual recently about World War II and some of the stuff that happened there. And World War II is actually an area of history I freaking love anyway. But there were a lot of dragons at that time. A lot of people had to overcome. There are things, and we tell our stories in a way to give these things a face, an understanding, to pass on lessons to generations. And we need more of that, because I think if we passed on that information more effectively, more aggressively even, I don't think the world would be where it's at right now. I really don't. We've got to a point where we've forgotten history, and we're trying to silence the storytellers and the poets and the musicians and the artists. And those people really do keep the soul of humanity alive. So no, they're not offended by it. Let's see. All right, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and get off here before anything else drags me away. Blue Star's throwing clocks at me too. Yeah, I ran over. I know. That's legit. Thank you all. Hope you all had a fantastic weekend. Hope you have a great week. For those who are in the vocation course, I hope you're loving it. And for those who haven't got it yet, I hope you are able to get it soon. All right, everyone, take care. Good night. Bye-bye.